All right, time for a Patreon request. In fact, I want to do a patron video here pretty soon. Begging, please, people, please donate to my Patreon. I have probably, of my 8,000+ subscribers that I have right now, I probably have like 300 or 400 people that like watch pretty much every video I do. I mean, that seems to be the average view count on every video I do is around like the 400 or 500 mark. So I'm assuming those are mostly the same people. If every one of those people just donated $1 a month, one lousy dollar a month, holy shit, would it help my life? Would it help my channel? So I'm gonna maybe do something like that soon to try to boost it up. Just $1, and man, it would really, really help. So anyways, so thank you to Ryan DeRosa for joining the Patreon here. I appreciate it, and he picked Trick or Treat. Now, I'm not going to bullshit you guys. I know this is a fan favorite movie. I know a lot of people love this. This is like a go-to Halloween holiday anthology movie. And by no means am I saying that this movie sucks. And by no means am I saying I hate this movie. But I'm not really a big fan of this movie. I've seen it a few times now. And I think what works for me is the atmosphere. The Halloween atmosphere. That's really solid. So there's good directing here by Michael Daughtry. So I am a fan of that. But honestly, none of the stories really do much for me. I'm not super engaged in any of them, really. And that's where this film loses me, because I think it looks cool. I like seeing a lot of memorable faces. I think the acting that's required for the film and how it's presented is all good. But the stories are all just very hollow. There's nothing really to them. There's no real backstory to them. There's nothing really going on with them. It's just kind of like creepy imagery, and the characters are mostly bland. I don't find the characters to be all that interesting outside of maybe a couple. But take something like Creepshow. See, anthologies, I'm always going to take them back and compare them to something like a Creepshow, because those are like the highest echelons of the anthologies that most of us can agree on anyways. But if you take Creepshow and you look at each one of the segments of the first movie, even the second movie, but let's take the first movie for argument's sake here, just on this one specifically. So you got the first segment of Creepshow, which is Father's Day. We get the Bedelia, we get the cake, we get the Father's Day. We know a lot about it. We don't get to fully immerse ourselves because it's only a 20-minute short, so you got to speed things along. But I do gain a lot from what I've watched. Then you move on to the Lonely Grave of Jordy Verrill, I think is the next one. Or no, wait, Something to Tide You Over? No, it's Jordy Verrill's Then Something to Tide You Over. Wait, shit. I think it's Jordy. But regardless of which one it is, Jordy Verrill's is pretty light when it comes to the story, but we still know something about him, and he's a very unique, memorable character. There's no doubt about that. Like, when you think of Stephen King's acting, that's probably the character you're going to go to from his filmography. And so you get something out of that at the very least. And the story is also very memorable about the meteor shit. And then you move on to the Something That Ties You Over. This guy's having an affair with this guy's wife. He buries him up to his neck. Like, there's a lot going on in that segment. And then you move on to the next segment and then the next segment. And every one of them has a story to them. Look at the Tales from the Crypt. Look at the Amicus anthologies. Look at a lot of anthologies, especially ones that I love, like Nightmares, with the Emilio Estevez and Billy Jacoby, with Bishop of Battle, or Terror in Topanga Canyon. These are memorable segments with really interesting, rich stories that could possibly be either developed into something more or leave you thinking about them after. Like, oh, I wonder what more there is to that. I wonder what happened previously to that. I wonder what's going on with this. And I just don't get that from the stories in this. Like, yeah, is there some effective setups with the Leslie Bibb opening and Hilo from Battlestar Galactica? I love her robot costume. See, here's the thing, man. I am not a guy. Now, I'm not going to say that I don't find some of the sexy outfits on Halloween to be appealing to the eye and be like, oh, wow, that, yes, her cleavage is nice. I love tits. So, oh, that's nice to see some boobs. But it's not a turn on for me. Even though I can look at it and I can be like, yeah, like I like seeing her tits. I like seeing her body, this and that. But for me, it's just so generic stock, and it just doesn't do anything for your character. So for me, I'm always like, if I go out on Halloween and I see a girl out in what like Leslie Bibb's wearing in here, she's in like a full cardboard robot costume, and there's like nothing revealing about it. There's nothing sexy about it, because that's what I can't stand about costumes. When women, they're always like, whatever they say they're gonna be, they always are like, I'm gonna be, but a sexy version. They don't even need to add that part, but it is always that. I'm gonna be Freddy Krueger, but a sexy version. You're gonna be a burnt pedophile, but a sexy version? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But yeah, like, I love that she's in this super silly costume. Like, that's the kind of girl you want to fall in love with, man, right there. That's the keeper. Some girl who's going to show up dressed like a freaking cardboard robot. Go home with her and marry that chick. The other girls, I guess you can go home with for the night, but they're not marriage material. Not for me. Anyway, moving on. Maybe that's too judgy. Who knows? Maybe the girl I'll end up with will have all sorts of slutty Halloween costumes, and I'll be eating my words one day. But that's not who I'm attracted to personally right now as it sits. When I go to parties, I always look for the girl who's dressed like something super fucking silly, something that is, she has humility, and she's just like, screw it, I'm just gonna have fun, and I don't need to look sexy. And to me, that's sexy. Like, for me, I feel like a girl is sexiest when she's like in her pajamas in bed, and like, she's not like in some slutty outfit. All right, we talked about this for way too long, but I thought it was very cute what Leslie Bibb was wearing in this opening segment, and the gag with the sheets and her pulling them off and all that, good setup. So atmosphere, directing, solid stuff. Where I am lacking is in the story, is in the intrigue of what's next, what happened, what's going on here. Like, that's almost all but lost. So as I said, very hollow, and it's good for a watch, and then I'm done with it, because what more can I gain from it? What more can I take from it? I'm not intrigued by anything going on. I just like the atmosphere. So maybe it's a good background movie, but people fucking love this movie, and I'm only assure you that tons of the people who are watching this right now are disagreeing with me. But like, what are you talking about? This movie's amazing. That's awesome. I'm glad that you think so. I have to respectfully disagree. I don't think it's a very well-rounded movie. And all right, so we've got what's his name? Dylan Baker. Yeah, Dylan Baker, the creep from Happiness. That's how I always see him. And what's up with him and kids, man? So in one movie he's fucking kids, and then in this movie he's murdering kids with kids. He's teaching his kid how to murder. I can never get it out of my head that Dylan Baker is that dude from Happiness. Like, I don't give a shit what he does from there. He's just always going to be that kid, that guy in Happiness who wants to fuck his son's friend, and then has that conversation about how he would just jack off to his son and wouldn't actually fuck him and all that. If you haven't seen Happiness, it is it is one of the most out there movies that you'll feel horrible laughing at some of the jokes or some of the dark humor that's in it, because you're like, I'm laughing at a dude who wants to fuck a child, like a child. I'm not talking about like some 17-year-old girl that's like right on the cusp and she looks like a woman. I'm talking about like a 10-year-old little boy. it does not sound like it would be amusing at all. And trust me, there are plenty of people who would absolutely not find it amusing. But for the people who do, it's pretty fucking funny, I have to say. Philip Seymour Hoffman's hilarious in it. John Lovitz is hilarious in it. All right. But anytime I see this guy, I can't help but think of happiness. Anyway, moving on. We get some cleavage from our werewolf ladies here. We get some tits when they're going all when they're wolfing out after they kill the fake vampire, which ends up being Dylan Baker's character, because the timeline's all over the place. They go this way, they go that way. They're trying to be like Quentin Tarantino or something, break up the timeline, move all over the place, confuse you. Where are we at? It starts at the end and ends at the beginning, kind of thing. So it's like a full wraparound, and it's an actual wraparound maybe, because that's the wraparound story, but it's not, because nothing is. It's just segments and series of events. It's a series of unfortunate events. That's what this movie could have been called if the title hadn't already been taken. Then we got the look of Sam, which is supposed to be short for Samhain, which is how you pronounce Samhain, which I actually didn't find out until pretty recently. So if you watch my Halloween 2 review, my 1981 Halloween 2 review, I went back and rewatched it to see if I knew back then or not, and I was just calling it Samhain the whole time, totally sounding like a complete dolt. But now I know how to properly say it. So the question is it Sam or is it Sow? If it's short for Samhain, then is it Sam or is it Sal? It's a good question. I know somebody asked that question to Michael Daughtry, and I don't know, on Twitter. Someone I know, someone like on Exploding Heads or something. This lighting is making me look like I'm like a raccoon, or like some of my eyes are completely black. It's all the light I got in here right now, though. So I could turn on this one, I guess. I don't think that'll do anything, though. No. Oh, wait. Whoa. That actually... It sucks the battery because we're running on battery right now. Okay, moving on. Oh yeah, we find out that Dylan Baker's character is a principal in this, so he's actually resides and watches over children, and then ends up killing them. So that's pretty fucked up. And he's burying a kid in his backyard when his kid gets home, but we find out that his kid's in on it. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense on why his kid's pissing him off so much and all that. I guess he's a short-tempered dude with children. There's some evidence to suggest that right below his feet. And I'm not really sure why you would, if you were trying to hide the body, why you would cut a finger off and throw it to the neighbor's dog for evidence to be found right near your property. So he hasn't really thought this through much. We get Brian Cox in here, which is always good to see. Big fan of the Cox, as you all know. And these kids go up to somebody's door. I think it's one of their teachers or something. So these kids are totally fucked. They got a principal. They got another woman in town. She might be somebody. She's somebody the kids know. And then they look in the background, and there's like a furry party going on, essentially, and everyone's like rubbing up on each other, or coming in each other or something. They're about to have that like ice storm. The ice storm. I only saw that movie once many years ago when they like throw all their keys in a you know, a big bowl, and everyone just like draws keys from it, and they're gonna take whoever's husband or wife home that they grabbed the keys of. That's not a party. Yeah, that doesn't sound good to me. Like if you're all just boyfriend and girlfriend and you're all just kind of open and like whatever, but I don't know. Your wife, like I'm not marrying a chick to share her. That's for sure. And yeah, even Samhain is addressed in this movie and pronounced properly. So they're aware, and they give the name Sam to the little kid. But I mean, I don't know. It does say it's short for Samhain, so I don't know. Anyway, moving on. The look now. One thing that really got me excited about this movie when I saw the trailer back in the day was the shot of the kids on the bus. I just thought that was gorgeous to look at, and I was like, oh my god, this looks like something out of like Halloween 3 or something. This is so cool looking. Hell yeah, sign me up for this movie. In the movie, it doesn't have as much of a visual impact as it does in the trailer for some reason, but it's still a cool looking scene. And then he's got like these kids chained into the bus, like the kids in the opening of License to Drive with Corey Haim, when he's like sawing his way out so he can jump in the freaking, he can jump in the Ferrari with Mercedes Lane. And then, yeah, that all goes wrong. He goes down with the ship in the water. He climbs out, and we find out that he's Brian Cox's character at the end of the movie. But there's so much mystery that could have been built there, so much intrigue. Like, tell us more about the kids. Tell us why they're doing this. I mean, there's a little exposition there. It's this like folk tale, this scary story to tell to your friends at night, a little local legend or whatever. The book report was on local legends, not Nightmare on Troll Street. Anybody? Yeah. Ernest Scared Stupid. All right. But yeah, I don't know. I wish there was so much more to these stories, but there's just nothing. It's all imagery. All right. And the prank that they pull on this little girl is just out of control. Like, they're scaring someone, and then there's traumatizing somebody. Now, they're kids, I get it, but dude, they go way over the top. They even break this little girl's glasses. You know how expensive glasses are? You have any idea that those parents are going to have to replace her bifocals? Hell no. And then Rhonda is like, peace, I'm out of here, and she leaves them. I don't know why there's a elevator that's accessible by children by a cliff where a bunch of other kids supposedly died, and then Rhonda goes down and she can just see the bus sticking out of the water when they said it wasn't ever found, and it was sticking up at the exact opposite direction than the way it would have driven in. So did she see that because it's like a ghost bus and the kids have risen because they're actually coming back, and this is the night where the dead can return because it's All Hallows Eve, and the dead can rise and come out to play, and like, but that's the bus too, and they like turned it around and half parked it up so they could come out. Like, do they need to do that? I don't know. When I saw the bus sticking out of the water, especially the wrong way than it would have went in going off the cliff, and they said no one ever found the bus and all that, I was like, that doesn't make absolutely any sense. I'm overthinking it, I know, but it irked me. It's cool looking, atmospherically, visually. I'm beating a dead horse here, but yes, did it work aesthetically? Yes. Did it work in context? No, not in my opinion. So there you go. Not that these stories really need to, honestly. I mean, you're dealing with supernatural elements, so I mean, really, I guess everything's fair game in that regard. But I don't know, it just kind of feels like it's going against its own rules, because she tells the story and we see the bus go straight into the water. Then she's, front first. And then she says that the bus was never recovered, and that everyone in town might have just never wanted it to be recovered, and then it's sticking out of the water. Like, I was like, wait, what? What's going on here? Looks cool, sure. And then you've got the principal going out and acting like a vampire, which of course reminds me of George A. Romero's Martin. If you haven't seen that movie, it's one of the best vampire movies ever made. You absolutely need to check it out. And I like that the werewolves have skin over their fur, and they just have to like peel their skin off like skin suits. So I'm assuming it's just like a process of growing skin over fur, fur over skin, like under the fur. I'm assuming that when they're done being werewolves, they just rip the fur off their body, and then they've got their normal cell again, the skin of their normal body under there. I would assume, and then it just keeps growing out, keeps growing out. Is that why they have to rip it away? Otherwise, they'd start to look like they're wearing like 6 layers of clothing. Well, you've gained a lot of weight in a lot of weird areas. Why are your arms and your legs and everything so big? They're going to look like the kid in A Christmas Story who can't even get up. I can't get up. I can't get up. Yeah, that's fucking funny. Got to tear it off, man. You got to tear it off. Shout out to Brandon from Exploding Heads, because it's become kind of a running joke that he hates movies where people have way too many jack-o'-lanterns in front of their houses in horror movies. He just thinks that's absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, it never bothers me because I know it's an aesthetic choice, and I think he's mostly kidding, but I totally get where he's coming from. It's like, do you have any idea? Pumpkins aren't cheap. They take a while to carve. They take a while to, when I say carve, I mean like actually clean them out, this and that. They, and they're big. They're robust, and then they need to be disposed of, and they rot really quickly, and you can only carve them so fast. You can only do away with so much. Like, yeah, people, unless they're like professional pumpkin carvers that are trying to make a statement, most people are only going to put out like 1, 2, 3 at best. Depends on how many kids they have, so how many people are in the house. But when you see a house where it has like 80, but one of them is like supernatural in this. Like, he opens the door, he doesn't have any, then he opens it again, and he has a ton. But that chick from earlier, Rhonda, is the one who did it. And that little girl carved what? 150 pumpkins? Did she happen to borrow $500 from her parents and take like 3 days off of school to carve them all and then freeze them all in a bunch of freezers so that they didn't rot? I know I'm being a dick right now, and I'm mostly joking, but that's more for Brandon, and I don't know if he'll watch this. I'll have to tell him that he's being mentioned in it so he can get to this point. Maybe I'll timestamp it. 20 minutes, around 20 minutes. I could see the time up there, so close-ish. And then you got the razor blade and the candy, which of course kind of harkens back to a urban legend of sorts. I don't know if this has ever actually happened, but razor blades in an apple in somebody's candy. Parents always got to check the candy, which I think is a total scam, just so that they can eat a bunch of candy and say that they're saving your life. I'm just helping you out, little Timmy. Who the fuck names their kid Little Timmy? Not me. And then I like that the whole bucket that kid has flips over, and there's like tons of razor blades inside of it. That's great stuff. The timing between the segments, I will give them credit for this. So in the previous segment with the principal, and he's burying the kid in the backyard, and Brian Cox's character comes out, and he's yelling at him over the wall. Then he goes inside, and he does all this stuff with Sam, whatever, and then he runs over, and that's when the principal's coming into the house, having just buried the kid completely in the backyard, like a 6-foot grave that he dug out, perfectly rectangular, of course. But yeah, he does that, and then he comes, and the timing actually lines up. I'm always very annoyed with how the timing never lines up in movies when they try to do that. And I felt like this actually felt legit. Like, that's probably about as much time as it would take for him to kind of push everything into the grave, because it's like a maybe 5-minute sequence. And yeah, it matches, and that to me matters. It's continuity, and it really does matter. Like the look of Sam a lot. Like when his mask gets ripped off, and he has like this organic humanoid but pumpkin-looking face, almost like he's mixed between like Jack-O and Satan's little helper. And then when he gets hit, when he gets stabbed, penetrated in the face. That's some porno shit if I ever heard of it. He has like pumpkin guts. Like his you see like pumpkin seeds and pumpkin like fly all over the wall, so he's like filled with pumpkin guts. The dude's like straight up made out of pumpkin. I love it. And his arm gets cut off, and then it like crawls back to him, and then he like reassembles, and uses his lollipop, which is his like famous tool here, to stab the guy. But he hits a candy bar, and he takes it off, and you think, oh well, I guess this guy's gonna live, and then the kids come back for revenge and take him down, and then we get back to the beginning with the sexy robot costume, and he does kill that girl by shoving it. He shoves it right down her throat, just a big old popsicle right down her throat. I figured if I'm just gonna go all like pornographic description, I might as well just go for broke. So, anyways, Ryan DeRosa. Oh, also, I'm not a big fan of Anna Paquin. I've just never been a big fan of her, but I will say she's actually pretty sexy in this movie. She's not a bad-looking girl. She's actually a very pretty girl. But and there's girls who can pull off a gap in their teeth, no doubt. Madonna does it really well. There's girls who I think that can pull it off, but for some reason, it's not appealing on her. And if it was just that, I'd be like, whatever. But I don't know, just the way she acts. Don't like her in X-Men as Rogue. I don't know. There's something about her. True Blood, I watched maybe a season of that. I didn't care for her as like Suki Stackhouse. That's her name, right? Or is that the writer? No, that's the name of the character, right? Yeah, the writer's like, it doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm not even going to pretend to know. Actually, I think I do. Charlene Harris? Is that right? Or is that somebody else? Fuck, I don't know, guys. Anyways, I'm pulling shit out of my ass at this point and shoving things in my mouth earlier for comedic purposes. So that's me signing off for the Trick or Treat review. So thank you to Ryan DeRosa, honestly. And guys, if you have a buck a month to throw the channel, I know I never ask for subscribers. I never ask for anything, but it would really help. So if you think like, $1 a month, what's that going to do? A lot. If a lot of you did it, I mean, if half my subscribers did it, I could do this full time. I'd quit my fucking job. So a lot more than you think. So yeah, if you got the time, if you got the money, $1 a month would truly, truly help. More, obviously, would help even better. But one, I don't want anyone to think like they need to give more. One is plenty, truly. So, man, this table moves around a lot. I have my foot under it, so like moves things around. It looks like I'm having a fucking earthquake. All right, guys. Adios.